What's up, everyone, and welcome in to our Buffs season prediction show. And I am happy to be joined by David Talks Buffs today. David, how's it going on this? Is it Tuesday? Tuesday
It's
afternoon?
Tuesday, man. Hey,
Oh,
I can't complain. Doing great. Happy. It's been a little while since I've done a live stream, so I appreciate you inviting me on to do one. And I'm excited to give a way too early season preview. This is going to be a lot of fun, man.
yeah, I'm excited to do this and then look back on it later on to see how terrible we were at it, or the crazy things that we claim is going to
Don't
happen.
look at my videos at this point last year. Just don't.
Yep. So we're gonna put it out there for everyone to see, and everyone can, bookmark this, come back to it later, give us grief on it as we go through this.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I do have a graphic that we'll go through. I'll switch back and forth, but I just want to remind everybody who we're playing, when we're playing, where we're playing, and then I'm going to mark down. I'll be on the left side, you'll be on the right. We'll keep track of what we each think, and then at the end we'll see what our record looks like. I think it'll be close to being similar, minus a couple games.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how we differ.
Okay.
I've given this a lot of thought today, so
Yeah.
my wins and losses might be a little bit different than what I talked about in like February. So it'll be interesting.
Okay, well, let's start with the first one, which is North Dakota State. So wanted to throw in a couple of notes here. And I actually am fairly familiar with North Dakota State, living in Montana.
Yeah.
They are part of the big FCS rivalry up here with Montana State, South Dakota, and Idaho. So all of these teams play frequently. So I see them a lot. I hear about them a lot. And here's the sad thing is North Dakota State is on a 2-year national championship drought after having been in the national championship for like 10 years straight.
Trash.
So I love that that's the thing. It's like, oh man, 2 years we haven't been to the national championship. Yeah, so they have a new head coach, Tim Plasek, who's coming from Wyoming, was the OC there last year. And way back when was previously the North Dakota State OC. It's been a while since he's been there. And the big thing that I read and looked up as far as his offense in Wyoming was it was a run-heavy offense, pretty much the same offense he ran when he was at North Dakota State. So it is very run-heavy, play action, bootlegs, tight ends, fullback sets, and they love having a dual-threat quarterback, which they do have a dual-threat quarterback coming back from their starter last year, Cam Miller. So David, what are your first initial thoughts from what you've looked up, what you're thinking, and how you're feeling on this game?
So sometimes I see this on Twitter. Now, I haven't been on Twitter nearly as much in the last month, but I have seen this where people are like, why would Colorado ever think of scheduling a team like North Dakota State? And my first response is, well, have you seen us play Air Force? I would much rather play North Dakota State every single time than scheduling a school with the triple option like Air Force. It's impossible to prepare for. And if you remember those games, man, they always give us trouble. They've beaten us not only in Colorado Springs, but at our place. I think, if I remember correctly, in the Mel Tucker year. But this isn't shade at North Dakota State, like when I say this, but if this is the year of expectation, man, we should not have a problem beating this team at home to open up the season. Again, I'm not trying to throw shade at this school, but if we have bowl game aspirations, if we have aspirations to compete for a Big 12 title and maybe pull off the miraculous of making a college football playoff, this is a team that we, like, no doubt should be beating by double digits at minimum. So, again, this isn't a shade on North Dakota State. They've had a great program running for quite a while. But I do think that we should be the bigger, faster, meaner team week 1 on that Thursday night. And if we aren't, might be a long season, Russ. And I'm really hoping this is not going to be a long season.
Yeah, if we don't pull off the victory here, I think all of our predictions go out the window because I do think that they're a good test for what we're going to face in the Big 12. Those run heavy offenses. Obviously, if we get pushed around in this game, that's not a good sign because those offensive lines that we'll be facing against some of the other teams and the running backs we'll be facing will be a lot better than what North Dakota State has. But I also like I said just a little bit ago, I don't think we should definitely look past this game. I don't think we should easily say, oh, this is like the other teams in the country, the college teams that are scheduling their FCS opponents. No, we scheduled one of the best FCS opponents for our off game, which could be great. It could be bad. We'll see. A couple of things. So the big thing is, like I said, Cam Miller, he's a senior and has started for them for 3 seasons. Good leg, good arms. Has in the last 2 seasons combined for 28 rushing touchdowns and 32 passing touchdowns, and has a career 67% completion rate and only 15 picks in 4 years of play. He's pretty good. But other than that, their big loss, they lost their starting running back, who is actually with the Seahawks now. So he went to the NFL. Okay. So they're going to a new running back. So overall, a lot of the teams returning. I did read up some stuff. They were, I guess, the first meeting with the new head coach did not go very well, and they thought the players were going to hit the portal really bad because it just, he was tough on them. I mean, I think Deion Sanders type tough of the whole, this is not going to be easy. You want to stick around. It's going to be extremely hard. But of course they didn't film that, so they're not in the news, and he's not getting in trouble for that.
I remember looking, and I think maybe they only lost maybe like 5, 6, 7 guys in the transfer portal, but a lot of those guys leveled up, went up to, G5 or Power 4 schools.
Okay. Well, let's get to the prediction part. David, just throw out a win or loss. You can throw out a score if you want. I'm going to keep track of just win or loss. We're just making it easy.
Yeah. I'm not throwing out a score for this one. It's just going to be a win. I don't care how it gets done. It just needs to get done, and we need to do it in at least somewhat of a dominant fashion if we're going to compete in the Big 12, man. If we lose this game, man, we might as well all retire. We better win this game.
Yeah, I think this is the case too. It's going to be bad even if it's close, because you're going to hear it from everybody that, Colorado's not good enough. See, they barely beat an FCS team. So yeah, I think it needs to be a win. I think it needs to be by at least 20 points at minimum to make it look, similar to the Nebraska game last year, where if they get some trash time points at the end, I'd be fine with that, but definitely need to get it up and go quick. So that's going to be a good test to start. Well, let's move on to the biggie. Heading to Lincoln, Nebraska, week 2, the rematch of last year's blowout win, our only blowout win, by the way, of the year. Everybody needs to remember that. Nebraska is the only team we blew out, and that is the definition of blowout in the NFL. I remember I heard an NFL player who said, I think it's anything above 10 points, they consider technically a blowout.
Okay.
Anything like that. And we were definitely with that. Even, if you take away the trash touchdown at the very end when we were playing backups, they had 7 points, and those 7 points came from Jeff Sims' unbelievable long touchdown run, which of course, everybody blames him for losing. They also don't realize he's the only person that had a big time play in that game.
Yeah. This is an interesting matchup because I think that I think early on in this season, we're going to get an idea of, how tough this team really is, how together they play. Again, we can't afford to, especially after the season that we had this past year, overlook any of our opponents. There are some that I'm expecting us to beat in a nice fashion, but our team, we saw what happened with Colorado State last year. What happens when we go in thinking that we're just going to handle a G5 team. This Nebraska team is not a team that we should overlook at all. They're the true definition of being a quarterback away last year. And I had Cameron Parker Broncos fan, runs mainly Broncos podcast, but a Nebraska fan on my show yesterday, and he was talking about how I don't know if he said, I don't know if Dylan Raiola is actually going to be the starter that early in the season, but if you guys do end up facing him week 2, I think it's definitely in your advantage that you're facing Dylan Raiola that early in the season compared to later on in the year. And I agree with him. This is going to be his first big time test going up against this Buffalo's defense. Hopefully Robert Livingston can throw some things at him that throw him off being a true freshman quarterback. But this is, again, I think a lot of people will see this as a toss-up game or probably Nebraska beating us. But this one, I can't go against my Buffs, man. We have won multiple times in Lincoln. We've been winning this matchup for quite a while now, ever since we've been doing the out-of-conference home-and-home matchups. And my hope is that this team really galvanizes and comes together around going into a tough environment like Lincoln, getting the win, and hopefully that sets us up well to perform in these Big 12 environments later on in the year, because going into Lincoln's going to be no joke. It's a well-coached football team, and I think that they're a much improved team from last year.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're definitely going to be improved. But then again, as we've talked about, we're going to be improved. So it's not going to be the same team that blew them out. I agree with you. I think it's great. I'm much better with playing Nebraska early than having it later in the season when Dylan Raiola could be more up to speed. Not saying that he doesn't have a chance to be up to speed at the beginning, but as a freshman quarterback, that's just a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. I also think playing in Lincoln, while it is very tough, there's going to be 100,000 fans. It's probably going to be the craziest environment that any of our players have played in thus far. I think that they're going to relish that moment. I think they're going to love playing the villain in that moment, coming into that stadium, coming into Nebraska, showing that last year wasn't just a fluke and that we're much better. And like you said, David, the last time we went to Lincoln, the Buffs pulled out a victory. And if there's any Nebraska people watching right now, I think you might remember this particular play. Let's look at this.
Yes.
What happened? What happened at the end of the game?
Money, man. That's how I'm expecting it to go this year again. I think it's going to be very close. But hey, we got somebody behind center that's built for those moments.
Yeah. No, I think, again, our receiving core is absolutely ridiculous. I do think it's top 5 in the country. So I think we're definitely going to test it. If our offensive line can hold up and give Shador at least a little bit more time than he did last year, I think that we're going to be just fine in this game. So what's your prediction for Nebraska?
Man, it's got to be a win. It's got to be a win. What? It's been going back to 2010, the last time they beat us. I ain't ever going to pick Nebraska, man. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I ain't never going to pick them. So, yeah, I got to go with the Buffs here.
Okay. Moving on, we got the next big rivalry, and of course, the rematch of the sunglasses game, as we can call it. We have the Jay Norvell, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime show going up to Fort Collins, which will be a home game for us Buffaloes, as we know, because we're going to pack Canvas Field. That spring game looked mighty good up there. I think I counted 10 fans in attendance up in Fort Collins. Just got it. Between Nebraska and Colorado State, we got to have our fun before we get into the real meat of this. So, David, what are your thoughts on this game?
Man, this one's going to be a lot of fun. I can't remember if we have any home and home scheduled with Colorado State in the future right now, but I'm kind of hoping that after this game concludes that we kind of put this on the back burner for a little bit, especially. I mean, it's been a long time, man, since I've seen like a game, in my opinion, where I just felt like the opposing team was just told to go out there and just play dirty as hell. I mean, so many personal foul late hit calls throughout that game. I can't remember the last time I've seen something like that. And while I have enjoyed this rivalry, sometimes, man, I don't know if you need to play little brother every year or so. I know that we've had a little bit of a break until last year, but I think that this is one where we go in, and I think especially after last year, this is a game where we should approach it. My hope is much more focused, and we go in there and get a dominant victory in Fort Collins in front of a lot of Buffs fans. What say you?
Yeah, I think the story with the first 3 games is I think there's a little bit of extra juice in those games. The first one obviously being the home opener, first game at home, you're going to have that little bit of extra oomph to it. Nebraska, the rivalry last year, the standing on the logo, all of that. Then to CSU and what happened with that game and how close it was and all of that stuff. So I think, and obviously Travis Hunter now with his revenge game, I know he doesn't talk to it about that, but that he wants to perform in this game and show that the reason why it was close was because he left that game in a smart way. And so I think it's going to be a massive win. Colorado State has lost a lot. They brought back their starting quarterback. They brought back Torrey Horton. They lost their tight end, Holker. They lost Kamara. They lost their other 2 top receivers behind Horton to the portal.
Did they end up signing Dawson? I saw that he visited.
Not yet. He visited. He hasn't decided yet. So we don't know officially if he that would add even more juice to the fire, because
that would be cool.
That would be a lot more fun. But between that, there really hasn't been much. And I mean, so all the players that dominated that game, Holker, unbelievable against us. Muhammad, he was great. And if you want to say, he might have lost the game for them with his late hit that threw him out and allowed the Buffs to now have a chance to score without him breathing down our necks. So I have a feeling they're not going to be able to replace him that easily. They don't have anybody that's, supposed to be that. So I think it's going to be a pretty fairly easy victory for us.
Yeah. Yes.
So we'll give it a win. Let's get into the good stuff, because now that we get into Big 12 play, this is probably where everybody's going to say that, Colorado needs to prove it in conference. We won 1 game in the Pac-12 last year. We need to actually win some conference games. So I am beyond excited that Baylor is our opener at home in the Big 12, because out of all the teams we play, I think they might be the easiest team on our conference schedule. What say you, Dave?
Completely agree. I did a video maybe a few days ago where I was kind of comparing where CU was defensively with all their PFF grades and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty interesting on a lot of the categories and whatnot. Baylor was right there defensively with CU last year, which I thought was encouraging in the fact that I think that there's still a defense that we can take advantage of. I would much rather open up with Baylor to open up conference play than be going on the road facing Oregon. So this is something where I see it as a win, as a nice little warm welcome gesture, maybe from Brett Yormark in the Pac-12 commissioner's office on us being the first ones to jump. They're giving us a nice little matchup. I think one that we should win. But yes, I'll comment on this, Mike. Mike, we started out 3-0 in conference play this past year. And I, you can make your arguments for what our depth is at and all this stuff. But I do think that we're an improved team this year. I'll take TCU over North Dakota State. I'm still taking CU over Nebraska, and I'm still taking CU over CSU. I think it's pretty reasonable to start 3-0. So
I think it is too. We'll agree to disagree there. Like when we get to conference play, that's when I think you can really debate, because there's going to be some toss-up games. Yeah, so Baylor comes into the season. They were 3-9 last year. Have a completely new offense, a ton of new players, a new starting quarterback. And their quarterback comes from Toledo, where he did throw for 7,000 yards and 1,000 yards rushing in the last 5 years. So he is a 6th-year senior coming into Baylor. So we'll have to see if that was just, lower level football getting those stats, or if he can really make that next step for them. But I don't think this is an easy game. If it was in in Texas, I might say something a little bit different. I mean, not really. I don't think they're going to lose either way. But the fact it's in Boulder puts that even more. Yeah. So I've got Baylor as a for sure victory. Let's move on to week 5. And this is the one I think we might differ. We might not. I don't know. This is where I think the schedule gets hard. Going to UCF. So Dave, what are your thoughts right away?
This is one where I've gone kind of back and forth on over the last couple months. It's a tough environment. They're at the bounce house. Some people want to crap all over Gus Malzahn. I actually think he's a very good football coach. And I think that UCF, they're on the rise. They're a program that's brought in not only a very good quarterback, but a nice little supporting cast around him as well this year. So with Jefferson. So this is one that I think is going to be a close game. But right now, I can't give. I'm going to give it to the Knights in the battle of the black and gold, sadly.
Okay. So looking at it, like you said, KJ Jefferson, of course, running backs, Kelly Boone, who transferred in, is looking really nice. They have a couple of good, obviously they've had a great transfer portal. They are very similar to us. Yeah. They brought in a ton of stuff. They have 2 4-star transfers, an edge player and a running back that are 4 stars. So, I think they are going to be much improved over last year. And what I think pushes me over the top to say UCF winning this one, I think them being at home is going to push kind of it over the edge in the close battle. If it was in Boulder, I might say differently. So I am also saying UCF is going to be a loss. So we didn't differ. We're right there.
It was one of my changes, I guess, from my way too early a couple months ago.
So 5 weeks in, we are 4-1, maybe ranked. I don't know. Depends on how the other teams are doing. That loss could hurt us depending on how UCF is doing. But let's go to the next big one. Home against K-State. And this game got a whole lot juicier in the offseason.
Yes, the return of Dylan Edwards. We'll see what he does against this defense. Hopefully we got enough speed to cover him on defense. We'll just have to see. Very good player. And this is a great way to kick off a renewed rivalry that's kind of been on ice for a long time now. So love the fact that we have this game at home, but I'm going to give credit to the coach that actually built North Dakota State. And this is one where I think Kansas State comes in here and gets a victory.
Okay. Yeah. Kansas State coming in, getting the victory and breaking that up. Okay. Yeah, I was pretty close on this one too. Yeah. Avery Johnson is a dual threat quarterback that is going to be very difficult to stop. That team, you're going to have to say pass the ball. And we're going to have to rely on our cornerbacks to just straight up man mark, because we are going to have to bring the pressure on the running game and the quarterback. And so our depth at cornerback is lacking a little. You got to hope there's no injuries by the time we hit Kansas State, or we're going to be in more trouble. I actually had Kansas State also as a loss. So we have back-to-back losses for both of us going into the next game.
We did not plan this.
No, we did not. We did not chat. We did not talk about this. We just came in here completely blind. So we are now 4-2. We've gone 2 straight losses. We are now playing Arizona. It is the rematch of last year's matchup that saw us barely lose to Arizona in what I really felt like was not a good game for Colorado. Like, we were that close and we didn't play very well. We all know that, the receiver for Arizona, McMillan and Fafita, they both had amazing games. And so, they're obviously returning. But I think for me, kind of the issue is Arizona's in turmoil after last year. Yeah. You have the new coach coming in. You have a lot of players still leaving. The 2 big ones stayed. But overall, I think that with how close it was and how poorly we played and how much we've upgraded, I'm calling this a revenge game for Colorado, and they're getting the victory at Arizona.
Man, this is so funny. We stay on the same page with this. I think, yeah, I'm not necessarily sold on Brett Brennan as being the right coach for Arizona. I think that Jed Fish is a very good football coach.
Yep.
And I think Washington did a great job with being able to hire him away to coach the Huskies. I think that while Fafita is returning, he has lost some of his weapons. The tight end, Jacob Cowing, a few of the other guys are gone now. And I think most importantly, unless this has changed, they lost their running back, Jonah Coleman, and he was the MVP of that game, in my opinion, against Colorado this time last year. So I think that this is going to be another test of our defense. Have we improved in being able to stop the run? I still feel like they're going to be a team that wants to establish the run, to allow Fafita to roll out, operate off of play action. That's where we saw him, in my opinion, at his best. But this is one where I feel like we should be improved enough to get a victory. And I think that, again, when you see programs go through head coaching changes, a lot of turnover with main contributors from the previous year, sometimes it isn't always so linear to always have a continued improvement. But this is one I think we get done.
Yeah, agreed. Next game, Cincinnati, probably next to Baylor, is probably our other easiest game in the schedule. That's a pretty easy one. Cincinnati's a rebuilding program. They have not even decided who their starting quarterback is. They have two quarterbacks. They have returning one, Brady Lynchenberg, and newcomer Brendan Sorsby, who was the starter at Indiana last year, played pretty well. They don't really know who they're going to go with just yet, it looks like. But my guess is Sorsby ends up winning the job just because of what he did last year. But even then, overall, the team struggled last year, going 3-9 and their season last year. So I'm going to call it, and especially because we're in Boulder, it's a for sure win. And I think this could be a much more lopsided win for Colorado.
Yeah, not much left to say other than, hey, I'm glad we got Baylor and Cincinnati at home. Yeah, I think we get these wins.
Okay, let's move on quickly then to Texas Tech. Now we're getting to the real meat of the schedule, I feel like, where things are going to get a little tough, but this is also now we're competing for who's going to the Big 12 championship. So we've got Texas Tech at Texas Tech. Not an easy one. We're going to Texas. However, we're going to Texas in November, David. We're going to Texas in November. We're not going in August. It's not the August TCU heat. No. It's the November heat, which I think the players are going to love, coming from Colorado in November. So what are your thoughts on the Texas Tech game?
Oh, man. Again, this is one that I know that Texas Tech, going into last season, they were kind of the dark horse favorite or like surprise team that a lot of people were picking to compete in the Big 12, and kind of had they didn't live up to expectation this past year. But I think this could be the year where they kind of go towards meeting more of those expectations to be a player in the Big 12. This is one that, I've gone more back and forth on, but I think that regardless of the temperature of this game, it's hard to go to Lubbock and play, man. Those fans are rowdy, gonna get tortillas thrown at them, and this is one where I got us taking a tough loss here.
Okay, this is where I think we'll differ just a little bit, and here's my reasoning. I went a little deeper into this. So their quarterback, Baron Morton, who looks like he'll be the starter, he started in spot duty last year. And on top of that, in his career, he's had an issue with staying healthy. All of last year, while he did play, he was battling injuries. With this game being at the end of the season, my guess is if that continues and that trend, he's not going to be healthy for this game. They also lost their entire secondary from last year's starting defense, which, as we know, our strength is going to be our passing game. You're going in with completely fresh cornerbacks on the defensive side. So I think that's going to help. It could become a shootout, and I honestly give the nod to Shador over Morton. And so I feel like Colorado is going to somehow pull this off. It's going to be a similar game to TCU last year is what I honestly feel. So I'm calling that one. That's where we'll differ. I'm going to call that one a win. Okay. Up next, Utah. This is a tough one.
Yes. Yeah, we might differ on this one too.
Okay. Yeah.
Utah, I know they're getting Cam Rising back, but I just got a feeling about this, man. Not necessarily the best analysis, but we get them at home this year. They did lose a handful of their weapons, to the NFL. Some of their best pass rusher, now a Denver Bronco. Okay. I'm giving us this win. It's been forever since we beat Utah, but I think we get it done. We get it done. Might be like a 3-point victory, something like that. But I just got this feeling that we get it done this year. They had their third or fourth string quarterback playing against our backup quarterback last year, and we almost beat them. And we were terrible. We were terrible at the end of the year. All right. Yeah. We get this victory. I'm calling it.
Yeah, so for me, the hard part is Utah last year, while they did beat us, it probably would have been worse had they not rushed the ball 53 times down our throat. Oh, by the way, on 53 carries last year, they averaged 5.1 yards on 53 carries.
Insanity.
They were literally like the quarterback didn't need to do anything. He needed to turn around, hand the ball, and they moved 5 yards every single time. And that's who Utah is. That's who they're going to be. Now they're going to have Cam Rising back if he stays healthy. I'm going to flip. I'm going to say that Utah comes in and beats us in Boulder. So we are same record. So we flipped Texas Tech. Yes. So we're both at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-3 right now going into Kansas. 7-3 going into Kansas. And this one's an interesting one at Kansas, but it's not at Kansas because Kansas doesn't have a stadium this season. Instead, it'll be at Arrowhead, which is quite a drive for Lawrence. So I assume they're not going to really have a home field advantage in Kansas City, if I'm being honest. So we're heading to Kansas. We're playing Kansas. And of course, Kobe, Jones and his whole, I'm going to join Colorado all off season just to get some clicks and likes and followers and just to backpedal all that. So I feel like there might be something there, but what are your thoughts on the Kansas game?
Well, I think having Arrowhead Stadium as your consolation prize for the season's pretty sick. And just as I'm making these predictions on giving teams giving the Buffaloes the benefit of the doubt when it comes to mainly staying healthy throughout these, I'm gonna give the Kansas Jayhawks that same luxury as well when it comes to Jalen Daniels, somebody who's kind of struggled staying on the field, but I think he's another very good quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. And because of that, I'm also going to give the Jayhawks fans the benefit of the doubt being able to fill out that Arrowhead Stadium. So I think that this is one that I got us getting a loss on the road in Arrowhead.
Okay. Loss on the road in Kansas. The thing that I really liked about this game is going to be a key is between the two quarterbacks. Jalen Daniels for Kansas, Shador for Colorado. Can he prove? I mean, he should be in the Heisman talk by this point if he has the season we all want him to be. So he's really going to be, driven to get those points. Kansas lost its offensive coordinator this past offseason and is kind of going with a new system. Just because of where we're at in the season, the game, I think at Arrowhead will be cool, but I don't think it's going to be packed out like it would in a college stadium because that's a lot of seats to fill. Mm-hmm. And we know how that is because look at the CU CSU game when it was at Mile High. Like, it was fun. It was a cool experience. You can't pack that and get the same noise that either the Broncos do or you do at a college stadium. Yeah. So I don't think the home field advantage will be there for Kansas. So I'm calling this one a win on the road for Colorado.
Let's go, man.
Okay. Last one, Oklahoma State, which, by the way, I just bought tickets to go see.
Let's go.
Oklahoma
That's
State
awesome, man.
CU, Thanksgiving weekend, Black Friday. I mean, that was perfect timing.
I think that's on my birthday. So
Is it? Well,
yeah.
Hey, you got to get yourself a birthday present,
Yeah,
Dave.
right?
Get yourself tickets to the Oklahoma State game. So yeah, Oklahoma State, this is going to be a big one because everything I've read surprisingly has Oklahoma State finishing in the middle of the pack. Vegas lines have them as the 8th best chance to win the conference, which I was a little surprised by. I thought they would be one of the higher ones for it. So we're going to be playing Oklahoma State at home late in the season. Obviously, they are a complete opposite to who we are. They are a run first with the best running back in the country. But here's the big thing I want to talk about with that, because it's already happening in the chat. Everybody's like, oh, the running back's going to go crazy. The big key is when running backs have a massive year in college, it is very hard for them to come back and have another massive year. They usually jump to the NFL at that point. They cash in on their ability to go play in the NFL because their life is so short for running backs. And in this case, I think everybody is going to be keying in on Ollie Gordon. If he's able to put up over 1,000 yards again, then Oklahoma State is going to be probably one of the best teams in the conference, because it means that they're getting through those bloated boxes even with him there, which also means that the pass is going to be open. So Oklahoma State, I think, could have a very good chance if he can bounce back. The key is their quarterback. He is a 7th-year senior. 7th year. And he played in all the years, by the way. The 2 years that he redshirted, he only played 1 game in each.
So ready for this stuff to end.
And isn't Oklahoma State where Whedon came from, who was also like an 8th-year senior, like 28 years old when he came out of I don't get there, but he threw for 15 touchdowns last year, but 14 interceptions. He is a turnover machine a la Jeff Sims. I think that we're going to feast on that. If Oklahoma State gets the run game going, it's over. But if we can stop the run and force the pass, which we should be doing, which every team should be doing, and why they don't have them playing, I think, winning the conference because of that, I'm going to go for it and say we beat Oklahoma State. And part of that's just me hoping, since I'm going to the game, and want to see a victory in Folsom.
No doubt. I mean, I think we by far have the better quarterback. We have the advantage of playing at home. And that is something that I believe home field advantage is real, especially in college. Now, part of my prediction with this goes into the fact of just like everybody knew we couldn't stop a nosebleed through the majority of the games last year. And my hope is that we take a significant jump in our run stopping ability this year. Again, there are some different quarterbacks like with Kansas or Kansas State that they can kind of complement a running game as dominant of the ones that they have. But in this case, like you pointed out, you don't necessarily want to be going to your quarterback if you're Oklahoma State. It's more just like you have to, or you do when you're forced to. This is one where I feel like the Buffs silence some of the critics when it comes to their run defense, and we do a decent job at it. I still think it's going to be a close game. I don't know if we're going to fully contain him, holding him to like 50 yards on 20 carries or something insane like that, right? Or 30 carries. No, but I do think we do a solid enough job to get the victory.
And my big thing with this is that's the last game of the season. There's a lot riding with it. Yes. You're going to have the Heisman up for grabs at that point. I assume you're going to have a lot of awards and accolades for Shador, Travis, who knows who else. That game's just going to have a lot of extra oomph behind it for sure at the end of the season. So long as we haven't gone on a 6-7 game losing streak like we did last year, and that last game became backup city because, everybody's injured and the game is meaningless. I feel like it could be a chance to go to the Big 12 championship, depending on how everything goes. Again, that depends on how everybody else goes. But when it comes down to it, based on our predictions and what we put down, I have Colorado winning 9 games.
Let's freaking go, man.
Dave, you have Colorado winning 8 games. So we're not that big of a difference. The big one is it looks like what was the difference with the really big one?
Kansas.
Oh, Kansas.
Kansas. Tech and Utah. So that 3-game stretch we're kind of a little bit different on. And I will say, when I first looked at the schedule a few months ago or whatever, I had us winning 9. But I've kind of been teetering a little bit on, do I drop that down to 8? Do I keep it at 9? And I think that, hey, as long as we're in this range of 7 to 9, A+ year, man. A+ year. And if we go beyond that, it's going to be chaotic in an amazing way. We can bring out all the bookmarks.
What would be your failure of a season? What would you call a failure of this upcoming fall season?
If we can't have another 3-game improvement this year,
okay.
And maybe that's more like I'm judging this more on a pass-fail type of grading scale, but that's kind of how I see it. I mean, we took a 3-game improvement this past year. Our friend Bird from Bird's Eye View, he pointed out on one of his videos the other day, we have, I think, 71% of our production returning this year, which is fantastic. I think that has us as top 20 or top 10 in the country in terms of returning production, even though we've still had a handful of turnover with this transfer portal off season again. But I think that there are some things going in our favor towards at least making that 3-game improvement again this year. And if things click and if we truly don't have any significantly below average position groups and we're either a wash or a net positive at every group, I don't see why we can't win more games.
No, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think 7 games is a good spot. We'd be bowl eligible. It shows again that steady climb up, which is what you want to see, which shows that it shows that the experiment is working.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't be improving if the turning over of all these people and the chemistry that we're ruining is doing anything bad to the team. Okay. If we go backwards and we win 3-2-1 game the whole year, then yes, absolutely. It would be a massive failure. And it would show that the Coach Prime experiment and the transfer portal is not working. So who knows what happened then. Let's get to some of the questions. Of course, we have the wonderful people in the comments going, and I do love this one from Stevie Davey, which is, no, they didn't go 12-0. Oh my gosh. We're realistic over. We've talked about that when we've been on the show together. There's no way in our minds we think that they're going to go 12-0 just like that. If that happens, that would be absolutely the craziest season probably in college football history.
I don't know how, looking back, it is so crazy that TCU pulled that off a few years back with Sonny Dykes taking over there. Now, I think Sonny Dykes is a really good coach, but I mean, they won, if I remember correctly, just a ton of insanely close games throughout conference play. And although I'll love 12-0, and maybe I'll put a little bit of money on it too, just for the fun of it. I'm a fan, so you're gonna get, I think, a generally optimistic view of what's going on. I think that there's a lot to still be very excited about, but I still got to give these other teams credit, man, for what they're doing. And just because I don't know them as well as we know our Buffs, it doesn't mean I think they're all chopped liver.
No. For sure. Benzo had a good comment back when we talked about the back-to-back losses. Both of us, the standard is the standard. Prime won't let the CU Buffs go back-to-back losses this season. Neither am I saying CU will go 12-0. I'm anticipating between 9-3 to 12-0. 9-3 is what I ended up with. 9 was kind of my in-between. I think my lowest prediction would be 7 wins. My highest would be, I think, 11 wins. I'm still going to call it one loss, but if I'm picking a number, I'm going with 9 wins.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I'm really excited to see how this team bounces back from being punched in the face or from having disappointment. I think that this is something that, like going back to last year, we never recovered from that Stanford loss. As embarrassing as that was, I want to see a more unified team this year, and I think we got that. I want to see a team that's a little bit more mentally tough than we saw last year. So I'm not saying I'm hoping for a loss. I do obviously expect some losses to happen, but I am excited to see if there's a difference, which I expect there to be, coming off of a disappointing game or something like that.
Yeah. This comment, I saw this going back and forth throughout the whole chat, but are you concerned that Colorado does not have an experienced running back?
Oh.
And there was people that brought up Dallin Hayden, what he's done, what he hasn't done. Well, he's not a 1,000-yard rusher in the Big 12. He's not experienced. Here's the thing. If you go look at Dallin Hayden's body of work in the Big 10, one, he was behind probably two of the other best running backs in the country. Ollie Gordon might be the best running back in the country. The two guys in front of Dallin Hayden are probably right there, 1-2 punches behind him. He wasn't going to see the field, but the fact is he saw the field the last 2 years in a decent amount of chances. And every time he got a chance, he proved that he was good enough to play. But again, you've got to give the ball back to those guys when they come back healthy. And so they did. Dallin Hayden, for all of his carries, he has over a 5-yard per carry average for his career in 2 years. A decent amount of carries at that. It's not like he's only had like 2 and those were 5 yards. Has a decent amount of touchdowns. I get what you're saying, but in all honesty, there's not that many players that are going to be fully experienced in college sports. You got 4 years. You got 4 years to make an impact. This isn't the NFL. This isn't like some running back who's been in the NFL as a backup for 10 years and he's finally been given the starting job. So I don't love when I see those comments. Is he as good as Ollie Gordon? No. But I think Dallin Hayden is going to be better than what we had on the roster last year.
Interesting. We will differ on this one, Russ. We will differ on this one. I am.
Okay.
I think I'm a little bit more with Rose on this, and I would say that what has happened at the running back position has kind of been some things that have teetered me in a way, or teetered the pendulum for me to drop my prediction by a game, even though I think doubling our win total from last year is fantastic. But I will say, I would like to have a little bit more experience in that running back room. I don't, I think Micah Welsh can fill in just fine, for instance. But to me, it's never ideal having to force true freshmen into having pivotal roles on the offense. Again, it was nice to see some flashes from Dylan Edwards last year, but I don't think we set him up very well for success with just how we were utilizing him. And with the other running backs that we had in the room, I would probably feel maybe a little bit different. Again, bump this team up a win or so if we were able to keep somebody like a Rashad Amos or Dylan Edwards. If we were able to kind of have a little bit more dynamic athleticism at the tight end position or a little bit more proven experience. Even with the defensive line depth, even though I think we're looking much better than we were last year, there's still, in my opinion, a little bit more to be desired in terms of our depth there. And so those are kind of like the 3 position groups that I do still have a lot of question marks with. But luckily, much like our linebacker play, this year, I think we're going to see it be much better, not only from the linebackers that we brought in, but also because I feel like the guys on our defensive line are that are in that 2 deep are much improved. And I think that while I do have some questions about our tackle play in terms of pass protection, I feel so much better about our offensive line right now when it comes to blocking for establishing the run game. And I think that no matter who is there in the backfield, I think they're going to have a much better time back there getting carries, hopefully, than what we saw last year.
I know Peter's shtick, but it's just like, let's pick anything that could possibly be a negative without actually knowing anything about this stuff. Because we didn't have a running game last year either. It's not like Dylan Edwards blew up everything. He had one good game last year. Did we help him out? No. We didn't help him out blocking or anything like that, but still the new coach is inexperienced. Every coach starts somewhere inexperienced. I'm not saying that we have Nick Saban on our roster, but I'm just saying that somebody like you at some point told and said, Nick Saban doesn't have any experience whatsoever. He's going to suck at being a coach. Like, you got to let these people coach and actually see what's going on. I like what I'm seeing from our coaches. I think they have good experience. We'll see how the X's and O's are with Robert Livingston, but I feel like he has the idea to do it. Pat Shurmur has had up and down career, but he has experience and he has had successes. He's had terrible lows, but he's had successes. So again, not sure on that. And then the Shepherd just arriving and Omarion Miller versus Shep is going to divide the lot. Like, Will Shepherd and Omarion Miller just spent the last week hanging out with each other and having fun. They looked like they were pretty happy together. So I don't know what that's about, but if we want to start,
Weaver came in over the summer, man, last year.
And he had the best. He had the best team of anyone.
All that stuff is no big. Yeah. At the end of the day, Peter is a closet Buffs fan. He will not admit it, but we know he's cheering for these Buffs as he spends so much time learning about and listening to this team. But what I will say is with Robert Livingston, it's pretty interesting. I think when I've thought a lot about the defense and my expectation, it hasn't really changed much or at all compared to my expectation of the defense if Charles Kelly had returned. And again, I just want to see competency from the coordinator positions. I think that while Pat Shurmur doesn't have necessarily that elite Andy Reid game planning upside, that some of these bright minds in college football can have those tags kind of placed on them. I think that he does provide competency. And I think that was one thing we were lacking, with positions on the coaching staff last year. And I think he'll at least provide that.
For sure. And I mean, just seeing how Sapp is coaching and how Des Moines Lewis is coaching and how, all of these guys are getting in there. It feels like in watching the videos, even it's a completely different atmosphere. It's a different team than last year. We could get into the comments, of course, of like, oh, they turned over the roster again. But of course, they ignore that we brought back 71% of the actual production of the team, like you said. So we got rid of the excess fat. We got rid of the waste. We got rid of the team that brought this team down during those periods of so many losses. Like, did we lose a couple players that were going to be a big role of this team and be a big part? Yes, we did. But we also added a ton of players that are, playmakers in their own right. They're going to be a big part of this team. And, that's just the way it is. And to go back, Omarion Miller, I think he knows what's about to happen, okay? He's going to be a rotational receiver this year, but next year the team is his. Like, literally all of the starters will be gone next year from the receiver room, and it is his team. And I guarantee you that if he's having conversations with any of these quarterback recruits, i.e., if we somehow get Julian Lewis, I think Omarion Miller will be just fine sticking around Colorado and being happy.
And I think it's kind of funny because I think he will exceed some expectations, in my opinion, because Pat Shurmur has gone out to say, like regardless of how you feel about it, he has said that we're going to run a lot of 10 personnel. And I think that probably our base offense is going to be that 4 wide, 1 running back there. I think that's kind of what you're going to see. So it wouldn't shock me if we see maybe Jimmy taking a little bit more rotational snaps than he saw last year. I would much rather have a bigger body on the field. That's just me, though.
I agree with you. I think that's going to happen.
From a run blocking perspective, too.
Here's the biggest comment. You say Omarion Miller is going to be pissed, but he had a chance to jump in the portal. I think a lot of us thought he was. I mean, I did. At the end of the season, I was like, Omarion Miller's probably the first one out. I thought Omarion Miller and Staub are going to be the 2 guys to leave the team and have a reason to.
Yeah.
They didn't. No, they're staying. Okay, well, I think that's it. They can continue fighting in the comments.
Oh, man, of course, this is going to bring up a bunch of fighting. But I know we didn't have this on the agenda, Russ, but I got a question for you. I know that there's a lot of talk about the Heisman. Of course, if CU has a good year, I think you could definitely see Travis or Shador in consideration there. Is there maybe like any dark horse names that you feel like could be up for certain awards, or maybe like all conference honors?
Yeah.
This year?
So I think one of our edge players is going to be in the talks. I think we're going to have a good year from at least one of those guys, whether it's Okunlola, whether it's Hayes, whether, I know everybody's comments on BJ Green, but, maybe he turns it up for Coach Prime. And
let's go.
I think that edge room is sick. Honestly, it is deep. It is sick. I think that could be a dark horse for some kind of award. I'm not saying anything crazy. Whether it's all conference or all American or whatever, I think one of the edge people can do that. I think that Travis and Shador will be in talks for the Heisman. I think the only reason we say that Travis is if he has the season we think he can have on both sides of the ball. Yeah. That's the reason he's going to be. It's a quarterback award. We know that, but I don't think anybody has seen the type of play that we're going to see, at least not in like 20, 30 years from Travis. So I think the edge room definitely. Do you have any specific players that you're looking at to be a dark horse?
Well, I don't know. I've been thinking a little bit more about Nikhai Hill-Green. I think while maybe he doesn't win like one of these best linebacker in the country awards or something like that, I think if we're going to have a much improved defense, this year, I think that a lot of that is going to be credit to him. Being a larger guy, I think he's like 6'2", 230 plus pounds, can cover and support and run. If you haven't listened to his interview with Brian Howell, I think it was posted today or yesterday. It was really awesome. But I think that you can tell he's not only gifted very athletically, but he's a very bright-minded player, very smart, and you have to be in order to get on the field and play at Michigan, which is what he did. So I think if our defense sees big improvement, especially against the run, some of that's going to be credit to him. And I would love to see some of our players on defense, even if we don't have one of the best defenses in the Big 12, seeing some stellar performances that get all conference recognition, I think would be fantastic.
Yeah. So defensively last year, by the way, we were the worst statistically, like by ranking, we were worst, and we were still in all of those games. I'm sorry. I don't know how anybody can know anything about football and not think, okay, one, this team's going to be better on defense, and two, being better on defense won't lead to more wins.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just the key. I love Nikhai Hill-Green. Honestly, I love the young man as a person too. Yeah. Hearing him talk, hearing how excited he is for Colorado, hearing how just he's really relishing this moment, sounds so mature, well-spoken. I would love for him to just go off. I would love to see a linebacking core of him and Johnny Chaney, and just see those two just, blow up things, use their speed. I think it would be a lot of fun to see what they could potentially do back there. Mm-hmm. And I would also love it, Coach Prime's all about bringing in his friends to, do some excess coaching on the side. I'm pretty sure he has some pretty nice linebacker friends he could call up that might be really useful for those guys to be able to talk to. Any last questions or anything that you have before we move on?
Man, I'm just ready for the football season to get here, man. I'm so excited. I've been trying to figure out, man, like, am I gonna buy this PlayStation right now so I can play college football 25? But I think I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. So maybe it might be more towards Christmas when I get that PlayStation. But are you gonna do any streaming on here of playing the and everything?
I've got already pre-ordered. We're gonna be doing launch stream for sure. Then I go on vacation. A little preseason vacation before everything. Going to be gone for about 10 days out of the country. Cool. And then when I return, the goal is during the season to do at least one stream a week with NCAA. So we'll do a Dynasty, maybe a Road to Glory series, and just have fun with it and tie it to Colorado, maybe even play the games before they happen.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So we might do something like that. We're going to do a lot with it. I'm really excited for that game. Looks so good. I'm just excited for college football again. I'm so excited the players are in it this year. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody make sure you stick around for that. because we're going to be doing a lot of content because we're getting into that boring period where we're about to get just nothing but, workout videos for the next 3 months. So everybody hold on, but I still think there's going to be some news coming out in the next week or two. We have gotten 2 buff signals from RIS in the last 24 hours, and then nothing came of it. And so I'm not sure what that means. I've heard some rumblings of who might be committing. Let's just say, David, that there might be a running back joining the room.
Lovely.
In the next 48 hours. So don't worry. They're not dumb. I think as soon as Amos left, they immediately just went into DEFCON 5 or whatever and started reaching out to every running back in the portal or a running back that might be interested. So they're not going to just let that go.
Let's go. Well, I can't wait to see who we bring in because, it'd be nice to have some more experience there. So,
okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching again. Make sure you are subscribed to both David and my channel, Buffs News Weekly, and of course, David Talks Buffs. Like this video. Keep commenting. We'll interact with the commenters after this live. I always jump in there and keep commenting. Appreciate you guys. We have 173 people watching, so it's been a fun, awesome stream. David, you have anything else you want to plug or talk about? You have anything coming up?
Nah, I mean, I'll be back again at some point, probably tomorrow. And hey, if you like Broncos, feel free to subscribe to David Talks Broncos. So we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers there. So appreciate you having me on, Russ.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you guys all so much in the comments, and we will talk to you later. Go Buffs.
Go Buffs. Thanks again, Russ.